At the edge of the world lies a forbidden kingdom, where no human is allowed to set foot. This mysterious realm is home to fearsome beasts that once ruled and preyed upon mankind, and at its helm sits a fierce and imposing king. In a grim and foreboding atmosphere, a young girl finds herself brought before a massive gate that separates the world of beasts from that of humans. She is bound and left on the other side by the men who escorted her, quickly making their escape. As she takes hesitant steps forward, preparing to meet her supposed fate, two beastmen approach and lead her to the kingdom's king. It is revealed that the girl is the 99th sacrifice. However, when she raises her head, Anubis, the king's secretary, comments on her thin appearance compared to previous sacrifices, suggesting that she should be exchanged for someone more nourishing. Unfazed, the girl retorts that Anubis is being impolite and claims that there is enough of her to fulfill their ritual, showing a disturbing lack of concern for her own life. She even goes as far as showing disrespect to Anubis, displaying a seemingly carefree attitude. Intrigued by her audacity, the king orders Anubis to leave them be, roaring fiercely when Anubis dares to speak out of turn. After Anubis departs, the girl continues to display her boldness by remarking, "What a short-tempered king." Sai and Klops, the two chain balls tasked with watching over her, caution her to apologize, warning her about the king's fearsome reputation. Yet, the girl casually compliments their cuteness instead. The king approaches her, skeptical of her fearless demeanor, as all previous sacrifices had trembled in terror before him. He suggests that she beg for her life if she desires a quick death. However, the girl remains unfazed and notices the softness of the king's paw pads. This observation angers the king, but the girl reveals that she has nothing to lose. Even if she were to escape, she has no home or family to return to and is resigned to her fate of being eaten. Hearing this, the king becomes curious and wants to know her name. She introduces herself as Sarifi and in return asks for his name, but the king merely responds that he does not possess one, leaving Sarifi somewhat puzzled. The sacrificial ritual is scheduled for the next night, during the time of revelation when the miasma clears. The king decides to keep Sarifi by his side until then, curious to see how long her bravado will last. As the girl is granted the freedom to explore the palace, the lords of the realm become furious over the king's intolerable whims. They reminisce about the late king, who was equally challenging to deal with. A century ago, during the Great War, the late king had independently made peace with humans, which led to ongoing conflicts with rebels who refused to follow his orders. These rebels continue to plague their lands to this day. The terms of the truce require a female sacrifice to be taken from the human population and offered to the king of beasts, symbolizing human inferiority in this kingdom. The lords advise Anubis to caution the king against toying with the girl, warning that such behavior might invite opposition and vulnerability. Meanwhile, the king scolds Sari for leaving his chambers and reprimands Sai and Klops for not keeping a closer watch on her. However, Sari defends them, explaining that it was her idea to explore. The king's chambers appear somber and uninviting, lacking any activities to keep Sari occupied. She suggests adding some flowers to brighten up the place, but the king insists on maintaining everything as it is, claiming to possess all that he needs. He also points out that flowers cannot thrive in the miasma-filled land, except on the night of revelation. He warns Sari not to leave the chambers if she wishes to live until the ritual, as she would be consumed immediately. Despite his stern words, Sari interprets his concern for her well-being. The king forcefully grabs Sari and pushes her onto the bed, scolding her for her insolence. He reminds her that he could easily end her life at any moment without waiting for the ritual. He asks if she still does not fear him. Unfazed by his threats, Sari recalls discovering that her name means sacrifice in an ancient language from an old book. She recounts a stormy night when her parents took her sister in as a substitute sacrifice for their real daughter, leaving Sari terrified by their cold demeanor. Compared to that, the king's eyes appear gentle, and his threats do not intimidate her. She wonders if he forces himself to act angry and pities him. While exploring the land, Sai and Klops explain that this fortress witnessed the fiercest fighting during the last Great War, and its scars still run deep even a century later. The king frequently inspects the area to prevent further unrest. During their exploration, Sari notices something peculiar and rushes to investigate, much to Anubis's displeasure. However, he cannot oppose the king's decision to let her act independently. The king joins Sari and reveals that the area is a lawless zone compared to the palace. It is a hotbed of rebellion, with frequent clashes between its inhabitants and humans causing unrest. The king believes his inspections instill fear among the inhabitants, preventing unnecessary bloodshed. Sari sympathizes with the challenges of being a king. Meanwhile, Sai and Klops inform Anubis about the king and Sari's activities. Suddenly, Sari catches the delightful scent of flowers and rushes toward a nearby garden where flowers can grow due to the sparse miasma. She believes the king brought her here for this reason and decides to pick some flowers to take back to the palace. However, the king struggles to understand why Sari would care for something that will eventually wilt away. Sari surprises him by placing a flower hat on his head, which he takes as an insult. Despite her teasing, Sari explains that beautiful things can bring comfort. The king grabs Sari and, after a pause, warns that a storm is approaching. As the stormy night passes, the night of revelation draws near. At the moment of the king's announcement that Sari is to be sacrificed, lightning strikes, frightening her despite her usual fearlessness of beasts. The sound of thunder reminds Sari of her adoptive parents, and she becomes worried that she might be a burden. In an unexpected gesture of comfort, the king covers her with his tail to muffle the noise. Surprisingly, she finds the sensation of the fluffy tail soothing, astonishing the king with her rapid shift from fear to cheerfulness. Sari reassures him that he doesn't need to maintain a tough facade around her, and she eventually falls asleep on his lap. As the flowers wilt and the miasma dissipates, the long-awaited night of revelation arrives. Anubis explains that it's a sacred event, and Sari joyfully dons a beautiful dress resembling a wedding gown. Even Sai and Klops are impressed by her appearance. Anubis escorts her to the altar, informing her that the king does not reveal himself to others on this night, though the reason is unknown. Left alone in the dimly lit chamber, Sari suddenly finds herself under attack by a beast intent on taking her place and killing the indecisive king. Just in time, a human intervenes and saves her from harm. When the beast attempts to attack the savior, Sari bravely steps in between them, praising the king for his efforts to prevent unnecessary violence and sacrifice. Frustrated by her words, the assailant launches another attack, but the human manages to evade it and fend off the beast, who flees in fear. After the encounter, Sari approaches the injured man, believing him to be the king. He points towards a hidden passage, but Sari is more concerned about his well-being. However, he insists that he is not the king. Sari remains convinced that he is, and he reveals his true nature as half-human and half-beast, never fully belonging to either world. He explains that during the night of revelation, he hides in the shadows to conceal his human form. Sari sees his actions as a sign of strength and kindness, not weakness. She deduces that he had let the sacrifices escape and used his own blood to deceive others into believing the ritual had been performed. Only someone strong and compassionate could do such a thing. Sari confesses that even if she were released, she has nowhere to go and expresses her desire to be eaten by him so that her sacrifice can benefit someone strong and kind. Touched by her words, the king breaks Sari's chains and embraces her tightly, repeating her name. As she prepares for her fate, he tells her that she now belongs to him. The next day, Anubis and the lords are in shock to learn that Sari is still alive, and the king has chosen to take her as his bride. The council is outraged at the prospect of diluting the royal bloodline with that of a human, but the king's decision is final, and no one dares to object. Meanwhile, Sai and Klops are overjoyed by the news. To make things easier, Sari comes up with a new name for the king, Leonhard, which means brave-hearted in the ancient language. He embraces the name, and it becomes his new identity. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more anime videos.